A bright sunny day and half the wind of yesterday bodes well for this practice session for NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, the first of two practices. You see that the anemometer's down to 5 miles an hour, and boy, that's good news because it was a cold and blustery day here yesterday despite the temperature being in the 50s. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Mike Joy with Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip jumps into the booth at the last second, and we're ready to go. And let's go practice.
Had to change shirts, had to get ready, you know. And then Michael was standing here. I looked over and I saw Michael. I said, I got to get to work.
He was going to stand in.
No,
for
I
you.
could see he was, and he was really wanting to.
All right. So what's our agenda for this practice?
You know, I told some folks earlier, look at the 10-lap average. Right now is when you're getting ready to race, and it's not that fast blazing lap. It's what you can do over the long haul, which 10 laps is a pretty long haul here, considering how the tires drop off. So, Larry, I think if I'm going to pick a winner for today's race, I'm going to look at those 5 and 10 lap averages. That's going to be the guy I'm going to put money on.
Yeah, because last night was about fast. There's the qualifying sheet. We're done with that. This is about being
Junior's on the pole.
Oh, you're right. Junior's on the pole.
You might ought to hung on to that one for a while.
But this, yeah, you still look for speed. You never quit looking for speed. But this is more about getting that driver comfortable because the speed's still going to be there, but you've got to get this car, and everybody's going to be searching for grip. That'll be the big story we'll hear during both these practice sessions.
Grip and room, because they're going to want to run all the way up next to the wall as close as they can get and wish there were about 3 more feet up there.
All right, let's get downstairs to Steve Burns.
All right, thank you very much, Mike Joy. Talked to Jimmy Johnson right before he got into the race car. And to echo the comments of DW and Larry Mack, Jimmy's going to work on the drivability of the car. He said he knows the track is very fast right now, but they'll worry about speed in the next practice. He said this place has gotten to be like Darlington. Not only do you have to take care of your tires, you have to constantly worry about which tire to focus on, Matt Yoakum.
And Steve, when you look at Kyle Busch, he's looking to Atlanta, a place he's had success in the past as a springboard, and really getting his season rolling. He won here 2 years ago, and when you look at his weekend so far, he qualified second for the truck race coming up later today on speed, qualified second for the Cup race on Sunday. Hasn't had a top 5 finish, though, dating back to last year, the last 7 races. In practice on Friday, he made one 15-lap run, the car very stout, then he went over to qualifying trim. But today is a whole nother day, but they feel pretty decent so far about their package for the weekend.
But I'm going to tell you what, I'm not surprised he's coming in because he's only run 3 laps, and that car was sideways over in turn 2.
Yeah, that's not a long run setup there, I can tell you. But when I look at that top, well, let's say just top 10 right now, those are the guys that you would expect to run really good in the race tomorrow. With who's leading the pack? Jimmy Johnson, he's about a 10th and a half quicker than his teammate Mark Martin.
Yeah, Jimmy put up the benchmark lap so far, 29:22. Mark is second. And all of the 25 drivers who've been out on the track, now 27, their first lap is their quickest, as we expected. So the fastest single lap is something we may not focus on very much in this hour, as Darrell told you.
But when I look at Jimmy Johnson, I look at his fast lap, but also look at his last lap, he's still got a 10th in the bank. He's just a little bit over a 10th quicker than everybody else, even after several laps.
Yes, even though he's slowed down half a second. You're right, he's still 12/100ths quicker than Mark Martin's 5th lap was.
Now the man we just saw there, that 11 car, Denny Hamlin, a second ago, he's 3rd quickest. Here's the guy that's 4th quickest, Kurt Busch, the guy that led over 230-something laps a year ago, and in Casey Kane in that 9 car, he won the fall race here. He's 5th quickest right now.
I don't think that Kurt, I don't remember where he qualified last year, but he was on the front row last year.
Yeah.
So his qualifying didn't back up how well he ran here last year, but right now his practice speeds are.
And we talk about this a lot. We talked about it at Auto Club Speedway. We talk about it here at Texas, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Got to watch those laps, those cycles on these engines, because it is a 500-mile race tomorrow. But Darrell, what I do like about this practice is the sun is out, and that's what we're supposed to have tomorrow. The conditions are getting closer and closer to what we'll have for that race.
Yeah, I think tomorrow's going to be like in the mid-60s. I'm just holding my breath. I got up this morning and I was afraid to look out the window. I said, I know the weatherman said not a chance of rain, but I've been here many a times when there was not a chance of rain. And oh, by the way, it was raining. But not today. I think we got us a great weekend.
When Paulo Montoya already working that high line. This race is the Kobalt Tools 500. If he goes the distance, he'll be running the Kobalt Tools 545.
Exactly.
But I think the guys that we know will be up there working that high line. Montoya will be one. Boy, he got real loose off turn 4 with Casey Kane up behind him. But Truex will be working the high line, and more than likely Dale Earnhardt Jr., our pole sitter, will be up there.
And I know Mike will stand over here, and he'll agree. That high line is a great line to run, and it's really fast. But, man, like we've seen Dale Jr., like we saw Kevin Harvick at California, if you just slip ever so slightly, you get that right side against a safer barrier.
And I think that may have been a combination of two things. One, his car was free anyhow, but that 9 car was approaching that left rear quarter panel, and it tends to just push that car around.
Teammates Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin pace the early minutes of this first of 2 practice sessions today. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice from Atlanta is brought to you by Hamburger Helper. 1 pound, 1 pan, 1 tasty meal. And by Napa. Napa know-how. Best 5 consecutive laps. Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, Mark Martin, Juan Montoya, and Kurt Busch. Here's Montoya's teammate, Jamie McMurray. All is well in the Earnhardt Ganassi camp after last year's dust-up on lap 93 at Las Vegas. And let's see, Jamie, though, 32nd on the board.
Yeah,
there's why.
He was slipping and sliding over there, I can tell you. Looks like he's a little free, too. He and Montoya both, the cars look a lot alike.
Regan Smith running right with him, 29th fastest in this session. He has run 10 laps.
You know, Darrell, we talk all the time, this is a 1.5 mile racetrack, but it has about a mile of corners. I think of all the places you go, this is where you really better break the corner down. Entrance, middle, and off. But as we promote all the time, you have to work on first things first. You've got to get this thing in the corner with the speed you're carrying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how drivers feel today. I know these cars run a little looser than what I would be comfortable with, but I never wanted to be turning to the right when I got down to the corner. You know, it's not dirt. It's not like Lightning McQueen. You got to turn right to go left. Here you need to be turning left as much as possible.
Now, Bill Elliott, this will be a good test for the Ford FR9 engine, because even though the Roush Fenway, the Richard Petty Motorsports cars are not going to race it probably to the All-Star race, the limited schedule with the Wood brothers and Bill Elliott, they will be racing that new Ford engine.
George's favorite son, driving for one of NASCAR's most storied teams. The first time he came here, he borrowed a car from his dad's dealership, a 1973 Torino, brand new car, sat in the infield and watched David Pearson drive to win here for the Wood brothers.
Wow.
You know, dreams were forged, and away we go. We just had a flyover.
We did.
It looked like a B-52. It was big.
And it was low.
And it was really low.
It was right down there. Here's what it looked like.
This is you'd be up here where we are. He went right by our window.
Is that a tanker? Maybe National Guard tanker out on maneuvers or something. Maybe I'll forget about this and go to Matt Yoakum.
Let's go to the garage. Yeah.
And Mike, that's exactly, I said the same thing and went over top, and a crew member from David Ruderman's team looked at me and I said, what was that? He goes, B-52. And the 00, some complaints from the driver, absolutely no grip down in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, he's pretty good. So his team made a slight adjustment in the front, going to send him back out, and they made a shock change. But he said down in 3 and 4, he was pretty stout.
Well, both ends of this track are different, even though, like we said, there's a lot of turn here. How you get into turn 1, you almost do have to dirt track it into turn 1. It's such a sharp entry. As you watch Ryan Newman here, see how you swing out next to the wall, and then see how the back of that car almost steps out to get it down into the corner. Then, of course, if you're running the high line, you're going to get up there where he is, or you can really pull hard down on that steering wheel and get down on that yellow line, which a lot of guys like to do.
And you're going into that corner, Darrell, at what? Right about 200 miles an hour.
Right around 200 miles an hour.
In qualifying trim.
Here's Jeff Gordon here. He heads off into turn 3, and you see we only get down to about 155 mile an hour in the middle of the corner. accelerates off the corner at about 175. Here we are at start-finish line. Swing this baby out right there, and then drive to the bottom. Those dips and dives, that's those black spots in the track. You can see he's a little quicker down here, 160, 161. And now it's a little short back straightaway, quarter of a mile. Doesn't give you much time to set up for turn 3, but like to get it down on the yellow line here if you can. 163 in the middle of the corner.
Darrell, we talk about the engines and 500 miles. You just see the RPM band right there. It's not very low, but it goes very high.
Man, it went all the way up to about 96, 9,700. That's a lot of RPM, and you can see that Jeff's working hard in there.
I like the way you talk about getting down to their 175 in the corner. In 1991, 175 was the pole here.
Yeah.
Steve.
And Mark Martin looking for a little consistency in his race car. He says it's a little tight, a little loose. He said, I can turn better, but without losing the rear. I don't want the back to slide much more. That's all I can stand. And he did mention the differences in turns 3 and turn 1. Bottoming out a little bit in 3, but not in turn 1.
Now, if there's a place we go, if it's not turning, you better work on the front tires. If it's loose, you better work on the hind tires.
That's right. And
David Reagan.
he needs to put a cooler on his steering box. He's going to wear it out.
He's getting a workout. You want a dark horse for tomorrow? Who's number 2 on the best 10-lap average right now? How about Marcus Ambrose? If you're coming to Atlanta today for tomorrow's race, or if you're here on the grounds right on the speed stage this evening, they're going to tape the next episode of Fast Track to Fame with Michael Waltrip, and you can see it on Speed Monday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll tell you, that show from Vegas with Barry Van Wee, the fiddler, that fella, he can light up an audience. He's headed for the finals, and someone else will join him. You'll see it Monday night.
Looked like one of the fabricators from maybe Henrik or somewhere built that fiddle.
Yeah.
That thing was awesome.
That was quite a piece. Matt Kenseth is 9th on the board in his Valvoline Ford, but he's been doing a little slipping and sliding here.
That's not like Matt. He's usually pretty steady. Whoa.
I mean, you just can't. This is happening. I mean, it speeds 180, 190 miles an hour. And it just
180, 190 miles an hour in a corner.
Yeah.
It's not like you're
turning
going in a
to the
straight
left.
line.
but I'd be willing to bet Matt may be one of those drivers tomorrow that may not make a lot of noise, but when we get down to that checkered flag, you look on the scoreboard, I bet he'll be right there in the hunt.
You know, it sort of reminds me of what Kevin Harvick told us the other day. He's talking about Danica. He said, you know, at some point in time, you're going to have to back one in the fence. I said, whoa, that's not very good. He said, because you don't know how far you can go until you step over that line. A lot of guys right now in practice are going to step over that line and then bring it back a little bit.
Clint Boyer carrying the BB&T colors here today. He's 18th, just ahead of his 2 teammates. They're all right together. Boyer, Harvick, Burton, 18th, 19th, and 20th quickest.
Points later, Kevin Harvick in the 29 car.
By what, 47 points over Boyer?
Over Boyer here. Yep.
And who'd have thunk it? At the end of 2009, if you'd made your picks for who would be leading the points right now, Kevin Harvick might have gotten some consideration. But what a resurgence for Richard Childress, that whole team.
And like Darrell and I talked yesterday, Mike, you know, we call it a resurgence, but we really started seeing it at the end of last year. They were building new cars, and I don't think it was just one thing. They were building new cars for these guys, and they continue to bring new cars every single week, it seems like. I think the crew chief swapping, as much as we question Richard Childress continuing to play that shell game, I think he's got the right combinations there, and I'll be very candid. I think 3 teams is more suited for Richard Childress Racing. And while we're on the subject of Richard Childress, Judy Childress in the hospital, and hopefully she's watching, and we wish her well and a quick, speedy recovery.
Absolutely. Let's check with Steve on our defending champions call.
Mike, Jimmy Johnson gives such great feedback. When he pulled off the racetrack, he told Chad Canals, he said, early to mid-entry is my issue. When the car goes into compression, I can't turn as well as I want. I'm just a little bit free getting into 3. Otherwise, the car's good. Chad said we're going to make a very quick change and go back out. Matt?
And Steve, when you come to a racetrack like the Atlanta Motor Speedway, when you look at Jimmy Johnson and his past success, everyone keeps an eye on him, and that's exactly what Clint Boyer's spotter Mike Dillon's been doing. He reported to Clint that Jimmy is running higher in 1 and 2, and then on the bottom down in 3 and 4, and basically running above the bumps down in 1 and 2, just trying to pass on information so maybe he can change up his line to make that race car even better. On the stopwatch, Clint simply says early in this run, it's not bad at all in the middle.
And I tell you, this is definitely one of the easier tracks for these spotters to see these things. I mean, you've got a great view no matter where you're at. But back to Steve's report on that 48 car and Jimmy Johnson. It's so different, Darrell, when you and Jeff and I were doing it. When the car would go down there and land, you know, we would simply just start changing front springs probably. What these guys have to do is make that timing, and when they get down on those bump stops, on those packers, they'll be changing those to help that car turn when it lands.
Yeah, they got to go to their notes, and not what they did here last year either. They got to go to the notes of what they got off of the pull-down machine, off the shaker machine, and make meticulous changes, hundreds of thousands. They don't do it with a tape measure like we did.
Speed's coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice from Atlanta is brought to you by Camping World RV Rentals. Book early and save. One-way and round-trip RV rentals available.
You know, you were talking about there's the trucks that'll come up here just a little bit later on Speed this afternoon.
1:30 Eastern Time. Ron Hornaday and Kyle Busch. There's Rowdy's truck. They share the front row. Matt Crafton, Kevin Harvick. Then it's Austin Dillon and Steve Wallace, and Jeff Bodine in the top 10, Todd Bodine in the top 10. Wow. I know where I'm going to be.
Hey, I told somebody, I think I'm having a flashback. An Earnhardt's on the pole, a LaJoie wins the modified race, and the Bodines are all in the truck race. What is this, like Back to the Future or what?
Steve, it's like the 80s again.
Hey, Mike, Dale Earnhardt Jr. just pulling into the garage. He just told Lance McGrew that his car is a little bit tighter now on early entry and loose off 2. And interesting to note, he also said when he gets into the center of the corner, the car hooks, then lands, and when it lands, it's tight on that exit.
Well, and I think this is going to be the biggest story going into this 500-mile race tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to be following Jimmy Johnson. He's starting way back in the 16th position. We know he's going to be coming to the front. These guys are starting up front. Can they keep it up front? Can they keep it up front with the way the car drives, the beginning, middle, and end? Can they keep it up front with things that they do on pit road with adjustments and pit stops?
Dale Jr. has 3 victories on mile-and-a-half tracks. His first win at Texas, the win at Atlanta in 2004, and then Chicagoland in 05.
You know, and Dale Jr., I looked at the best 10 and our best 5 and 10 lap. Dale Jr.'s 8th in the best 5, and he's sitting there 5th in the best 10 lap average. That's a good race car.
Yeah.
Martin Truex is 28th on the board with the best lap of 30.46.
He was good on the show lap. Good on trackside last night. He and Ryan both did a nice job for us.
Had a lot of fun with him.
And here's Mad Max, 35th on the speed chart.
Went and made a deal with Booty Barker's crew chief this morning. Probably the next time we'll encounter this type of situation, if they're not in the top 35, will be Texas Motor Speedway. I'm going to bring a radio up here, and if he's locked in on lap 1, I'm going to call Max in.
Enough.
Yeah, because Booty didn't, I don't know if Booty didn't get the first lap or he wasn't sure. I think they're so tight right in there. A crew chief almost sits there and say, I'd like to call him in, but what if he can pick up a little bit? You know, and if he did, that could be the difference of getting in and not getting in.
Here's what I think it is. Usually for qualifying, in Booty's defense, Booty sits out on pit road to watch the car go. He wants to see the attitude of the car in qualifying. He doesn't have a scoring monitor in front of him. They're used to having to run 2 laps, and he probably knew what Max ran on the first lap, but he didn't know that that lap would have locked Max in.
I think you're right.
But what I told him, put a guy at that scoring monitor, and Larry Maccabee will be in Texas.
You'll be the guy. All right. Steve.
The update from Jeff Gordon, Mike, he's saying let's let the track rubber up and come to us so we're not chasing it. The plan is to make a 15-lap run on sticker tires. Then they may be done for this practice.
Well, he's out now, so I guess he's on his 15-lap run now.
It's what it kind of looks like. Yeah, this is his third time out in this practice session. He's starting to work that high line.
You know, if Harry Gant were here, he'd be proud of these guys down to 1 and 2 because they're all up there in the Harry Gant groove, every one of them.
Nah, he'd
wishing
be saying,
the track was about 10 feet wider.
He'd be saying, won't y'all get on up there next to that wall?
Again it.
Again it, yeah. Get them hind tires up there.
Tickets remain available for Sunday's Kobalt Tools 500 here in Atlanta, or you'll see it on Fox.
You know, we just heard Steve Burns just told us that some of the guys saying running the top seems to be a little easier. If you think about it, makes sense, Larry. You got less stagger. The bigger the circle, the better the car will drive, because if you get down on the bottom trying to run the bottom, that stagger is going to tighten you up. If you get up around the top, got a little bit bigger circle to run, that stagger wouldn't affect you so much.
And don't you think it's maybe a little more forgiving up there at the top? You know, you got to have a pretty good handling race car on into a run to be able to hug that yellow line.
What happens, though, is if everybody runs the top, pretty soon that groove goes away. Right now it's good because there's not a lot of people running it.
Now, last evening here, when the Whelen Southern Modified Tour ran, the field fillers were out in force. Corey LaJoie won the race. Great side-by-side finish with Tim Brown, but the fellow you just saw, Joey Logano, and his buddy Brandon McReynolds were the first guys to him down in victory lane.
Oh, yeah, that's part of his posse. That's his posse.
Yep.
Those kids all grew up together. They used to come to MRO, to the Bible Club. Coleman Presley and Brandon and Corey and
Kyle Grissom.
All those kids grew up in this sport.
Yeah.
Speaking of growing up in this sport, where you're talking about Judy Childress, also Linda Petty, those ladies were in this sport when it wasn't cool to be a NASCAR wife. And they've been around this sport for a long, long time, and certainly miss them when they're not at the track.
See David Rudman there in the 00 car. Right now, I was trying to see how many laps that David has actually run so far in this practice. He's run a total of 19. You see he's got Aaron's on the car. Mike and I learned just a few minutes ago that Aaron's is going to step it up at Talladega here in a little over a month for your brother Michael. Michael's going to drive that 55 car for Prism Motorsports with Aaron's on the side. So Michael will be back racing here shortly for a place he loves.
Good for him. Well, he loves the restrictor plate races. That's just his forte. That means he likes it.
Kyle Busch is back out after what they call him at major surgery.
I would say everything but a yard sale, Mike. They've made so many changes on this 18 machine. Under 14 minutes left in this practice session, he has just been fighting bad loose. They have changed so many different things on this race car, trying to tighten it up. And this is typically a great stretch for Kyle Busch. Remember, we told you back in 08 he won here, then went to Bristol and won there. And while we're speaking of Bristol, I want to give a shout out to Jeff Bird, the track president there, a little under the weather. We're hoping him well and very soon. A great guy.
Kyle Busch accomplished a lot of firsts. You know, he won the very first race with this new car, and then he got Toyota's first win in Sprint Cup here a couple of years ago.
You want to see the highest, widest, handsomest guy here right now? You're looking at him. Watch him come off turn 4. I mean, right all the way out to the wall. He's running the highest of the high.
Mr. Census Taker. Greg Biffle.
I'll be knocking on your door.
Best 10-lap average, or here's best individual lap. Jimmy Johnson, Mark Martin, Denny Hamlin. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice from Atlanta is brought to you by the Sponsifier. Visit ToyotaRacing.com today. Click on Design It, enter it. And by Napa. Napa Know-How. There's cousin Carl. We saw him out on a golf cart a bit ago, coming back from an appearance to rush inside and get practiced in this number 99. He's 12th on the board.
Going to do a little interview with him later on today for our pre-race show tomorrow. Should be interesting. If you think about 5 years ago here,
yes,
in that car, looked very similar, or actually looked exactly like that.
Right.
he started his claim to fame.
Yeah, I read his quotes. You know, he won the Nationwide Series race on Saturday. That was his first Nationwide Series win. And someone in Victory Lane said, same time, same place tomorrow. And he went, well, that'd be kind of cool, I guess.
It was very
well,
cool.
It came very true. Very true.
Get a look at Brian Vickers out logging laps. Matt?
Mike, he's always impressive, especially on the racetracks like the Atlanta, Charlotte, and Texas configuration. He's turned in 28 laps so far, 13th on the board. He was telling his team over the radio, basically, the car starts out a little tight early and then ends a little tight later in the center, and it's free on exit, especially late in the run. So they made a few adjustments here or there, but they look pretty impressive on the board so far, and he was 5th here 1 year ago.
Well, that has to be good news for those guys because, you know, they struggled the 10 races in the chase. They kind of picked up struggling this year. They need just a good, solid run.
Here is a car not to be overlooked tomorrow. New colors, Lance Snacks on Marcus Ambrose 47. He has the 10th fastest single lap, and he has the 2nd fastest 10-lap average in this practice.
And they're due for some luck. You know, they got off to a rough start, lost an engine, had some problems. That's a better race team than that. He and Frankie Kerr, like old Frankie. Good crew chief.
Now that 10-lap average, we've talked about it this whole practice, and we will in the next one. Casey Kane tops that list. Ambrose is 2nd, and Kurt Busch is 3rd.
Yeah, here's the update from Kurt Busch, Mike, the defending champion of this race. Tight end, then it gets on the right car, gets on the right rear tire, then it wants to break loose. It stays loose through late exit. So he said we need some rear shocks to help with a forward bite. Crew Chief Steve Addington said 10-4 on the shocks and we'll make a camber change.
Well, and shocks is something you can work with. We talked about it at the top of the show, looking for grip. Shock can really help the grip situation. You know, I feel like we should kind of give our viewers a little bit of an update. You know, this is race number 4 of 2010. As you see the wing on the back of that car, the plan right now is still the dot on the target to get rid of the wing and go to the conventional rear spoiler is Martinsville, which is about 2 races away. We get an off week next week, so Bristol may indeed be the last race for the wing in 2 weeks. They've got a big test at Talladega coming up in a couple of weeks. They've got another huge test at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but I kind of like the plan, the way the schedule is. We would first run it at a half mile, then we would move to Phoenix a 1 mile, Texas a 1.5 miles, and then of course Talladega, the first restrictor plate race with it.
And Larry, you got to also make a note here that NASCAR knows what they're doing. It's not like they said, "Oh, I'll take the wing off, put a spoiler on." They have done extensive testing in the wind tunnel, with the teams, feedback from the teams that have been to the wind tunnel. So they feel very, very confident and very, very comfortable that the car is actually going to be better and race better when they make the change.
And the 2 big issues to why didn't they just go ahead and change? One is NASCAR's supplier has to make enough rear spoilers. They'll be single sourced, just like the wing is, though a different supplier. So each team has 2 to start when we go to Martinsville. And the other thing is that the claw template, the major template that goes over the entire cars, its locating points were the wing mounts. So that had to be rethought out and re-engineered so they find a different place to locate that claw other than what they've been using.
And you might say, well, why don't they just let the teams make their own spoilers? Hello. The teams would love to make their own spoilers.
That's where, yeah, don't throw me in that briar patch.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to be treated a lot like the roof flaps. You know, the teams supply their own roof flaps, but NASCAR says this is where you buy them from.
Right. Tony's 21st on the practice chart right now, with a 30.05 as his quickest lap.
But we're getting to conditions with the forecast here this weekend that Tony Stewart's like. It's going to get hot. It's going to get slick. It's going to start sliding around.
Guys are getting up there in laps too. Kane's run 40 laps, McMurray 40, Edwards 36. That's a lot of laps when we still got another practice to go.
There are the most laps run. Paul Menard's had quite a season. I think
Yes.
you know he has come into his own this season. I think to a level that may be surprising to some people, but it has been a process. It's been quite a program for Paul Menard, but You know, he has been running competitively. Right now, he has the 11th fastest lap of this session.
And, you know, I don't think we've probably talked about it at all or enough. It's Slugger Labby, the crew chief over there. You know, Slugger's a pretty savvy crew chief. He won the Daytona 500 with Michael a few years ago down at Daytona. And that's a combination, again, good and solid every single week.
3 top 20 finishes so far this year.
I mean, we've seen through the last couple of years that Paul at times has really shown that he can drive a race car. Then they make some changes, kind of get off. Right now, it looks like they got the good chemistry between he and Slugger.
First of 2 practice sessions, and here's the board we're watching closely. The best 10 consecutive laps led by Kasey Kahne. Monday night, stop by the hub for your double heapin' helpin' in NASCAR. We'll recap the action from Atlanta and look ahead to Bristol. NASCAR Race Hub presented by Hooters. Monday night, 7:30 Eastern, only on Speed. Boy, Jeff Burton just had a moment, didn't he?
The guy that's got my attention is, this is the 16 car. He's the one that's got my attention. He's running so high. He's got such a head of steam when he goes down the straightaway. And you can see here that Kevin Conway in the 37 car sort of got in the way and slowed everybody down, almost caused a problem.
It looked like Burton had to jump on the brakes almost.
But you got to watch the Biffle. I mean, he has that thing sideways. Look at him. He is. Yeah, no pressure. He's driving. I mean, he's driving like it's 10 laps to go.
And, you know, I almost think he's run a total of 28 laps. I get a feeling that just a little bit ago they maybe put some fresh tires on that 16 car, possibly just watching the lap times. He's been out a total of 4 times.
They're going to be putting a lot of fresh tires on the way he's sliding it around.
There's his crew chief, Greg Irwin, on the left.
I know everybody drives hard.
1 minute here, bud. Clock check if you're done next time. We probably get a tire see if you come this time.
I know everybody drives hard, but I don't think anybody drives hard all day long, any harder than Biffle does all day long.
That's a good point.
I'd say once in a while you want to say, Greg, just give me 100%. 100 would be just fine right now.
You know who'd like Greg Biffle? Cale Yarborough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every lap, every situation.
To the mat.
Just as hard as that car will go.
Whoops. Missed pit road that time.
You know, he's been driving in that Nationwide Series for Gary Baker and that group and giving that car
Man,
well
he
of a
has.
run.
He's turned that group around.
Kasey Kahne wins the best 10-lap average of this practice session. Jimmy Johnson, the best individual lap and the best 5 consecutive laps. And here's what we promised we'd look at throughout this session. And you see names like Montoya, Speed, and Allmendinger, the road racers, and Ambrose are up there.
See a couple of Chevrolets there, Montoya, Dale Earnhardt Jr., our pole sitter.
Pretty interesting little top 10 right there.
Hopefully practice is over and the skull sessions will begin.
Debrief, Larry. Got a debrief.
And then we'll be back at it for a second practice session that you'll also see final practice right here live on Speed. I guess the census is going to be with Biffle's team for the next 3 races.
Yeah.
3 races.
So you get your form, send it in.
Please, it saves us money.
Saves all of us money. So Jimmy Johnson wins practice from Mark Martin, his Hendrick teammate. There's Denny Hamlin, who was 3rd quickest. Kurt Busch and Kasey Kahne are the Fast 5. You'll see John Roberts right after the break, and we'll have final Sprint Cup practice for you a little later on today.